Thank you all for joining our webinar today. Today, we're going to be focusing in on HubSpot's AI functionality. So, we're gonna talk about the key aspects of what foundational items you should be looking at as it relates to AI in your HubSpot tenant. We've been getting a lot of questions around how do we make advancements in Breeze, advancements in the types of output it provides us, and things like that. Just a quick high-level overview. Brand Accurate is a marketing agency that helps organizations deploy and integrate HubSpot into their marketing channels, their sales channels, their service channels, and their operations channels. We are a HubSpot partner, so we do run into a lot of HubSpot customers. So we're here to help. Today is about making HubSpot AI useful, not just cool. We'll be covering how HubSpot AI uses data. We're going to jump into, and this is a big portion of the discussion, it's the 4 critical AI data sources that HubSpot leverages today. And then we're going to talk about why those data sources matter for not only Breeze, but for agents more specifically. And then we're going to jump into kind of the categories of agents and how they help. We're going to be looking into layers. It's quick wins first, and then how to structure it, and then where agents fit in. Main idea is that AI is only as good as your context. I'm sure if you've been using AI today, a lot of the outputs are a little off. You then go back and then you put in a new prompt, you give it a little bit more information, and then it gives you a little bit better, and then you're like, okay, I need to do another prompt, and then all of a sudden it finally gets you what you want. You don't want that to happen inside your HubSpot tenant. So the idea is that if Breeze or AI doesn't know who we want, who we're talking to, who we are, and what we sell, it's just going to end up guessing. And you don't want AI to guess, and you don't want them to pull from external sources to be able to provide an output. So your goal should be converting tribal knowledge into repeatable data. So how do we do that, right? What do we got to look at? And these are the key data sources. So when we look at these, we see who we want, which is considered ICP, which is kind of like company fit, who we're talking to, which is the buyer profile, persona fit, who we are, seller profile, and then what we sell, products and services. We're going to go down each one and dive into them a little bit deeper, get into the definition, get into the phases of building those out if you haven't already. So ICP, or ideal customer profile, honestly the best companies you sell to, or the best customer that you sell to. HubSpot's inputs revolve around some key elements. They rely on the budget information, employee count, the technology that organization is leveraging, that organization's revenue, that organization's industry, and then geography. This is firmographic information or technographic information. So you might hear me say that later on. But these are the common ICP attributes, and also is the inputs that you would be plugging in inside of your HubSpot tenant to provide those data sources. So your ICP should be at the forefront of your go-to-market strategy. And a lot of organizations have already done this work. They sit down with their marketing team and their sales team, and they talk through what their ideal customer looks like. Maybe they write it down, and maybe they have a document, but now is the time to give that to AI inside of HubSpot. So what that really looks like is you could create as many ideal customer profiles as you want. I wouldn't go on the extreme end on any of these. I wouldn't go on the extreme end and create, 100 but you don't want to just have one. No business is that simple. So you want to try to find a happy medium to really distinguish between the ideal customer profile and create segments, which we'll get into here. So the phases to build out your ideal customer profiles. So the idea would be to build the data foundation. This is where you accurately define your ICP. Again, you'll want to use complete firmographic and technographic data for accounts inside your database. Having the right data infrastructure inside of HubSpot, or to be honest, anywhere in place, will help you set up for success in later stages in the building process. Next step is define your success criteria. Ask yourself what your business is trying to accomplish to define the success criteria for your ideal customer. Let's just say if you're looking to maximize revenue growth, you may want your success criteria to be high annual contract value, or ACV. If your main goal is long-term retention, on the other hand, you may want to focus on finding organizations with a high lifetime value. Determine what matters most to your company before diving into other stages. Identify your best fit customers. Look at the past to select your best fit customers. Utilizing the data foundation you established in step 1 and the success criteria you gathered in step 2, analyze historical data to gather quantitative learnings for your best fit customers. Let's just say you selected the high ACV as a success metric. Identify the list of past customers that have a high ACV. Additionally, it's important to talk with your sales and customer success team, or any team that actually engages with your customer, to get a little bit of more qualitative data. This is critical because while data is critical to building an ICP, doesn't always tell the whole story. So collaboration in these build outs and in all these data sources with your team is key. Conduct your analysis, analyze your data. You may notice that your customers with the highest ACV, or annual contract value, all have 100 to 500 employees. They use HubSpot as a CRM and are generally located in North America. You want to use that commonality among your best fit customers, which would then bring you into, your outline, right? So your outline of your ICP. Based on the shared traits established, create a silhouette of your ICP. In this step, it's important to create a clear definition, but stay away from getting too narrow. You want to go in too much detail and segment too many things. Like I was mentioning before, creating multiple profiles is okay, but I wouldn't go too crazy with it, because AI again will start to guess on which one is the most appropriate, and it might get it wrong. So that's a little bit about the ICP. Next, we're going to get into the buyer profile. The buyer profiles, they guide how AI or Breeze or agents communicates, what content it creates, and which pain points it will emphasize. Buyer profiles determine whether a prospect is worth pursuing and then how to approach them. HubSpot, inside your tenant, HubSpot provides profiles which you could select different sales framing, which is around BANT and then MEDIC. When you're determining which one to choose from, BANT works best for high volume, transactional, or inside sales, and MEDIC is designed for high value, complex, long cycle B2B enterprise sales. So you have to determine which profile fits best for these sales qualification frameworks. What that looks like, though, If you haven't heard of these are essentially acronyms for the types of inputs that you would be providing to HubSpot. So when we look at BANT, that's budget, authority, need, and the timeline. When we talk about MEDIC, you're looking at metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, identify pain, and then the champion. So when we talk about the phases to build out your profile, we start with the research and stakeholder mapping. The goal is to identify the who and the why before any direct engagement. This is where, again, you analyze past wins, you conduct internal interviews, so collaboration with the team, and then you segment from there. Differentiate between the economic buyer, the one who controls the budget, and the champion, the one who sells for you internally at that organization. Again, define qualification criteria. This is the time to translate your research into specific profile checkpoints for each framework. For example, for BANT, define what ideal budget and urgent timeline look like. For example, a profile might require a minimum annual revenue or a specific triggering event. This could be that organization opened up a new office, or there was a merger and acquisition. Maybe those are key identifiers that tell you about the need and timing within BANT. For MEDIC profiles, focus in on metrics and decision criteria. Define the exact KPIs your buyer uses to measure success. Let's say it's a 20% cost reduction. And then the technical standards they use to evaluate vendors, as an example. Get into validation. One of the things we always recommend is not only collaboration with your internal team, but maybe take 3 to 5 of your best customers that you have a really strong relationship with, and offer them an incentive to sit down with you and talk, right? And talk through what their internal decision process look like in going with you. Another step that that I've been starting to deploy in our customers, HubSpot tenants, is a field. So for your sales team or your business development team to input when a deal closes. So we make it a required field that enables the sales team to describe what that decision process looked like for this closed one opportunity or deal, right? This field or this property can be leveraged from an AI perspective and also is great for your research. In some instances, organizations decide to have two of these properties. One is a drop-down select, and one is a 3 to 5 sentence or a character limited property, which provides more context to that deal being closed. And it gets into that decision-making process for that customer. Again, with any of these data sources, none of these are static, and there's something that you have to revisit at the minimum a quarterly basis. The idea would be they would be revisited when a new product or a new service rolls out or a new potential target audience is developed for yourself or your organization. Okay, so that was a little bit about the buyer profile. We got into the ICP. Now let's get into the seller profile. So you want AI to match your positioning when it starts to create content for your team in your HubSpot tenant. You want it to be on brand, and you don't want it guessing or invent positioning. So HubSpot enables you to have different inputs. But when you are thinking about your selling profile, the framing should be around, your positioning statement, your differentiators, your proof points. This could be like case study snippets, right? voice or tone guardrails, and then this also could be boundaries, what you don't do. Um, HubSpot relies on very simple inputs for this data source. That's the name your seller profile, a brief description, and descriptions inside these data sources are key because you can input as much as you want or as little as you want. Um, Allows you to select tone, which is either basic or comes directly from your brand voice settings inside of HubSpot. So you have to go to your brand kit inside of HubSpot and then go to your HubSpot brand voice settings, and then the tone type, and you get a couple options there: professional, helpful, witty, formal, optimistic. It all depends on think about how you want your sales team to be interacting with customers. Do you want them to be professional? Do you want them to be witty? Do you want them to be optimistic and exciting sounding all the time? This will help keep your messaging on brand and tailored to how you want your team to be communicating with your prospects or customers. Phases to build out your seller profiles. Our suggestion is to build a brand Bible. This is where you are writing out, everything that makes your organization great. All those key criterias that we mentioned earlier, your differentiators, your problem statement, the challenges that your customers are running into, and then the solutions that you provide. Some organizations go crazy and write a 10-page document. Some only write 1 page. So you got to find you have to find a way to describe what you're doing on a day-to-day to help your customers be successful. From there, you'd want to convert these into segments, into key seller profile segments. And then again, with everything, you revisit. It's important to stress this. You want to come back anytime you are offering a new service. Put it on your calendar for your team. Like, hey, we're going to be looking at our AI data sources and what we do as an organization. This is stuff that organizations are actively working on all the time. It's not, in some instances, this is a little bit of redundancy within the work within your organization. You're already actively having conversations with how we can sell better. What's our new go-to-market strategy? Now you're just adding an extra layer in there to be like, okay, how can we take what we're saying in this meeting or what we're putting down in our notes around our organization and bake it into HubSpot's AI? So you want to treat your data sources inside of HubSpot's AI functionality as an additional team member on the team, right? But they're not in the meetings with you. So you have to go plug it in, right? So let's jump into the products and services. This one's really key because if uh, if you don't have your products and services listed inside of HubSpot in the data sources section, now you may have, and it's important to call out, HubSpot did not build the AI functionality to be baked into different objects within your tenant. So if you have, let's say you have, hundreds of products inside your as an object inside your tenant. Well, AI is not pulling from those product objects. So you have to, you know, create these products within your data sources. So this is what you sell, who it's for, outcomes and constraints, and then the packages and pricing if you are, publicizing that. So AI needs a clear offer map. Inside of HubSpot, your criteria are set around your overall value proposition. What pain points does your company solve? And then the product name and product description. Again, you can get a little crazy with the product description. You want to give it really key details. This is just a text box inside of HubSpot's data sources for now. And you want to be able to have that be in a paragraph format where you're highlighting some of these things. You're highlighting who it's for, the outcome and constraints, and then a little bit about how you sell and the pain points that this product or service is delivering for that ideal customer profile. In those descriptions, you can call out your ICP. You could say, hey, this is for ICP profile A, and this is what it does, right? And AI will be able to, Breeze and the agents will be able to make a connection between those two. And when it's crafting the emails or when it's making suggestions to your team, it'll make a suggestion based on that particular product or service. When you lay these data sources, lay the foundation for these data sources and start plugging in, what you'll have now, if you have not done these, are generic drafts, inconsistent results. But after you start to put these in, you'll see targeted on-brand, fit-aware actions inside your tenant. What happens almost immediately is that Breeze or Copilot drafts emails that reference persona pain and plus the ICP angle. It offers better lead routing and prioritization, so ICP fit, better hands-off because buyer role is known, better recommendations because offers are defined, and then it lays the groundwork for agents. So now we talked about these, we jumped into each data source. We talked about, how this can impact you immediately, what it's going to result for your team. So now the next question is, well, where the hell is it inside my tenant? So if you go to the settings icon inside of your HubSpot tenant, under account management, you will see AI. Now, under AI, you're going to have a couple different settings that you can turn on and turn off. One that would be really, that I would recommend that is automatically turned off, which is the files data. So if you're regularly putting in like PDF documents or other type of collateral that's in relation to your business, you want to give AI access to those because that helps it understand more about your positioning. What is your marketing team doing and creating that can feed AI? What is the sales team creating that feeds AI, that can feed AI? So these are just some settings that you would see right away. When you click near the top, and hopefully you can see my mouse, it's right here at data sources. This is what we've been talking about. So you could see in here as an example, you have your company profile, you got your ideal customer profile, you got your products and services, your user profile, your buyer profile, your selling profile. And here and in this screenshot, you see it's your ICP, your ideal customer profile. In this example, we have the names for them. You can just see those for now. It's the regulated healthcare, Microsoft 365 modernization, logistics, transportation. So these are all like individual industries that they wanted to highlight, and they dove in and made the inputs from there. So if you have your tenant pulled up, jump into here and you could see some of the settings that, contextually that we were talking about in today's discussion. And this is your kind of your first step to go make those adjustments. So I'm sure you're getting a lot of emails from HubSpot today about about AI, about Breeze, about new agents that they're rolling out and things like that. And that's going to be a constant. And this is why it's so important to have these data sources in place, because as new agents and as new capabilities in AI come to light, you're going to be prepared. It's going to make you more sustainable. But key difference here, right? So Breeze helps you do work faster, and then agents are a way for you to get work done and get have your team, take one less thing away off their checklist. So it's semi-automated, or in some instances, it could be fully automated. Agents are where structured data becomes a superpower. So when we look at the types of agents that are in place today, now again, this is constantly evolving with HubSpot, and there's going to be more to work from. But you have, from a high level, you have marketing agents, you have sales agents, you have service agents, and then you have ops and data agents. Marketing agents are something that the marketing team can use to craft better content, make better marketing go-to-market strategy suggestions. Sales agents, that gives you good company information or contact information on how this buyer is moving through the sales cycle. Service, on the service side, this is where a lot of organizations use, the custom chat, the chat bot, or chat flow, I should say, inside of HubSpot to make determinations on how they could be communicating and helping customers. The other angle, and if you're in a complex service environment, this is another example of how service agents can provide key positioning in content creation for that particular person that's reaching out. For ops and data, this is where you get into that operational side in the data side of HubSpot, where it's populating fields for you, and those properties that are so key to feed AI, but also feed your team the insights that they need in order to better sell and be better equipped to handle those discussions that are happening with prospects. So how do these agents use your data sources? Real simple. Try to make this as simple as possible without going into too much detail. But when we look at this, they are using ICP to prioritize and route. They are using buyer profiles to personalize and handle objections. They are using the seller profile to, again, keep on brand and claims consistent. Products and services, again, to recommend the right offer. Now, as mentioned, HubSpot is constantly making changes and rolling out betas for their AI initiatives. In addition, they're constantly making updates. I think with AI and software today and helping software developers create more and faster, there has been a lot in the pipeline. So if you haven't already inside your HubSpot tenant, you can actually go into your HubSpot tenant under where you'll see your company name and your profile. You'll see a section in there called product updates. What this will show you is new things that have rolled out that are live or in beta or are in development from HubSpot or are being sunset. This is an area that's really awesome because you can start rolling out features and joining beta programs inside of HubSpot that are enhancing what you're doing on the day to day. And a lot of the agents get rolled out here first. So good idea to go ahead and subscribe to this section so you get updates to new features that are rolling out. And if there's anything that you've always wanted to be able to do with HubSpot, run a search in here, see if it's being rolled out or not, and you can actually join that beta. I think one of the biggest ones that people are running into today, and off on a side note from not necessarily related to AI, but kind of related to AI, is email sends. A lot of organizations are running into problems where things are going into spam or not being sent at all. They're rolling out the ability to have more controls over throttling email sends. So there's a beta for that in here today, where marketing related emails can now go out in a throttle environment. So that's just one example of some of the beta things that are getting rolled out, but there's tons in here for AI. I wouldn't jump the gun and start going into these AI betas until you've set up those data sources first, which gets us into kind of that next topic, and what kind of brings us in from a brand accurate perspective is our Breeze Readiness Sprint. This is a 3-week sprint where we'll sit down, we work it in phases. We go through a discovery phase, we go through a plan phase, and we go through an execution phase. This is where we are, where we review your HubSpot portal, set up a high level properties, pipelines, lifecycle stages, data quality, kind of look into your environment, see what's being done there, identify AI use cases, sales outreach, support summaries, offer recommendations, lead prioritization. We look at inventory, what already exists and what's missing. Your ICP definitions, your personas, your brand voice. In here, we provide AI scorecards. We create a gap list, and then we usually come up with 3 to 5 high impact use cases to prioritize for you. In the planning, we convert the business inputs into concrete HubSpot build plan. We finalize your ICP, finalize your buyer profile personas, define seller profiles, and then standardize your products and services, and then decide how data will be captured, whether that's through workflows or playbooks or data enrichment. This is where we have an AI data source blueprint, HubSpot property map, implementation plan, and then how we're gonna how we will know if it's working. This is a good KPI structure that we'll put in place. And then we'll execute on that. We'll build the AI data foundation inside of your HubSpot. We'll turn your go-to-market knowledge into structured HubSpot data sources. So Breeze and agents produce accurate, on-brand, actionable outputs. There's a QR code if you want to schedule a meeting with us here to help you and get you started with this 3-week sprint. But even if you don't want to get engaged with 3-week sprint, feel free to schedule a meeting with us, and we can dive deeper into your scenarios, and we could talk through this. I am done. That is done for the presentation. Let's see if there are any questions in the Q&A. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in. Okay, I got a few in here. Okay. We don't feel confident with the data that we currently have inside of HubSpot. Is this going to mess up our AI initiatives within Breeze and agents? No, but there's a caveat. So my suggestion when we look at this, and I think this is why HubSpot is building these data sources to begin with. They know, HubSpot knew going into this AI build out that some organizations' tenants are a little behind, right? So actually, these data sources are perfect for organizations that don't feel like their data sets inside of HubSpot are perfect or at a good point, right? So that's why taking the time to fill in these data sources will kind of alleviate that gap that you have. Now, the things to call out are that HubSpot is building out workflows that are dedicated to AI and feeds context. So when you're building out a workflow, you can use custom properties to say, hey, use anytime this field is entered, use this to feed our AI's context. So when you start to think about, the types of properties that you want to create inside of deals, inside of company records, inside of contacts, inside of tickets, you want to take into account how these can actually be used for AI, not just your team anymore. So my suggestion is, obviously work with a HubSpot partner like us to come in, evaluate your existing HubSpot infrastructure, see how we can how you can make quick changes, make some long-term changes in how you're collecting information, and then, you know, build a AI roadmap in the sense of, okay, what are the properties that we need to include and have it feed AI its context. So if you don't feel like your data is, long story short, if you don't feel like your information inside a HubSpot is not where you want it to be, or you believe it's not in a space where HubSpot is going to be able to feed AI the right context, right now start taking action on these data sources, because if they're not in there, it's guessing, and it's not using any of your properties. It's just going to use publicly available information to make guesses. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. Yes, we will be sending out the recording to each of you. I will also provide the deck that was used if interested. Any other features coming out of HubSpot for AI agents that I know of? No, the framing is always there. So it's always going to be around those buckets of marketing, sales, service, data ops. It's just a question of how it's going to be leveraged. Third-party integrations with AI. So there isn't a one. So the question was around using third-party integrations to fuel AI directly, or Breeze directly. There are some talks of that, where you don't have to bring in the data from HubSpot, or excuse me, bring in the data into HubSpot, and it could rely on those third-party tools that you're using today. My suggestion is, if you are using third-party tools, that you should be bringing that data into HubSpot no matter what. You should have that be a unified source of truth for your team. So my suggestion would be, see if there's ways to get that information inside of HubSpot. And again, think about how those fields or those properties that are coming in to those objects inside of HubSpot can fuel AI, and provide context to ICP and buyer profiles and all those data sources. Okay. All right. Well, this was a quick one. Normally it's the full hour, but I think we covered all of our bases here as far as the data sources. I am so thankful for you guys being able to join. Thank you for all the great questions. Like I said, we'll be sending out the recording. We'll be sending out the deck so you guys can review. Again, if you're interested in booking time with us to get this Breeze Readiness Sprint in place, we are happy to help. We are happy to help regardless of any investment. So if you want to schedule some time with our team, feel free to do so. Thank you all for your time, and have a great day.